The golden era of rugby league administration has just been incinerated by a single flamethrower. Imagine the most powerful man in the NRL, Peter V'landys, standing on a pedestal he built himself, only to have the foundation hacked away by the most respected voice in the game. Phil Gould didn't just disagree with a policy, he executed a public character assassination that has left the corridors of Moore Park in a state of absolute paralysis. This isn't just a tiff over scheduling or a minor disagreement about a refereeing bunker decision. This is a visceral, deeply personal ideological war that has been simmering in the shadows for years, and Gould just decided to let the world watch it burn. The air in the rugby league world has turned cold because when Gus Gould speaks with this level of calculated vitriol, it usually means a regime is about to crumble. You thought the game was stable, but the internal structure is currently screaming under the pressure of a brutal, unprecedented revelation. Subscribe to all sports updates. The tension began when V'landys attempted to consolidate power in a way that bypassed the traditional consultative nature of the game's greatest minds. Gould, a man who has lived and breathed the tactical and political intricacies of league for half a century, saw a pattern emerging that he could no longer tolerate in silence. He waited for the perfect moment, a time when the public's frustration with administrative overreach was at its peak, to strike. The roast wasn't a loud, screaming match, but a quiet, methodical dismantling of V'landys' entire leadership philosophy. Gould highlighted the disconnect between the glitzy corporate announcements and the decaying state of the grassroots game, accusing the administration of chasing short-term headlines while the actual soul of the sport was being auctioned off to the highest bidder. It was a masterclass in verbal warfare, delivered with the rhythmic precision of a man who knows exactly where the bodies are buried. The NRL world stood still as the criticism landed like a series of heavyweight punches. This confrontation is rooted in a fundamental disagreement about what rugby league should be in the modern era. V'landys is the ultimate disruptor, a man who prides himself on moving fast and breaking things, often ignoring the traditional red tape that slowed his predecessors down. Gould, however, views this cowboy style of leadership as a direct threat to the long-term health of the clubs and the players themselves. During his brutal revelation, Gus pointed to specific instances where the V'landys way had prioritized television ratings over player safety and developmental integrity. He painted a picture of a sport being run like a frantic casino rather than a prestigious national institution. The shockwaves from these comments have forced club CEOs to take sides in a conflict that no one wanted to admit existed. It is no longer a secret, there is a massive rift at the very top of the hierarchy, and the consequences of this fallout could reshape the entire landscape of the NRL. In the middle of this chaos, we see a clash of egos that is unparalleled in Australian sports history. On one side, you have the administrator who saved the game during the pandemic, and on the other, the oracle whose technical knowledge of the game is considered gospel by the fans. When Gould unleashed his critique, he didn't just target the rules, he targeted the competence of the leadership. He suggested that the current administration is flying blind, making up rules on the fly without understanding the mechanical repercussions on the field. The surprise for many was the sheer lack of restraint Gould showed. Usually, there is a level of professional courtesy, but that has been completely discarded. It felt like watching a mentor turn on a protege who had grown too arrogant for his own good. The revelation was so stinging that it immediately went viral, sparking a firestorm of debate across every social media platform and sports radio station in the country. All sports updates. The specific details of the revelation involve a secret meeting regarding the expansion of the league and the distribution of funds that were supposedly earmarked for junior development. Gould alleged that these funds were being diverted into vanity projects designed to boost the personal profile of the executive wing rather than the actual players. This is the war no one saw coming because, on the surface, the NRL's bank balance has never looked better. But Gould's argument is that the wealth is an illusion, a temporary high that masks a systemic rot. He spoke about the loss of the game's identity, claiming that the current leadership treats the fans like customers rather than shareholders of a community asset. By exposing these internal mechanics, Gould has effectively invited the fans to look behind the curtain, and what they are seeing is a chaotic struggle for the steering wheel. The brutality of the roast lies in its undeniable logic. It's hard to argue with a man who has won everything. As the dust begins to settle, the silence from the NRL headquarters is deafening. Usually, V'landys is quick to counterpunch, but the precision of Gould's strike has left him in a difficult position. If he fights back too hard, he validates the idea that he is a dictator who can't handle criticism. If he stays silent, he looks defeated by the weight of Gould's accusations. The players are watching this play out with a mix of awe and anxiety, knowing that their livelihoods are caught in the crossfire of two titans. This isn't just a media cycle that will disappear by next weekend, this is the beginning of a civil war that will likely end with a significant change in how the game is governed. Gould has successfully framed V'landys as a man out of touch with the very people who make the sport great, and in the court of public opinion, that is a death sentence. The game is now divided into two distinct camps. Looking forward, the ripple effects of this roast will dictate the next decade of rugby league. We are seeing a massive pushback against the centralization of power, with Gould acting as the unofficial leader of the resistance. The revelation that there have been heated, private confrontations between the two for months adds a layer of drama that rivals any soap opera. Every decision V'landys makes from this point forward will be viewed through the lens of Gould's critique. Was that rule change for the fans, or was it for the ego? Was that expansion bid legitimate, or was it a distraction? Gould has placed a permanent shadow over the administration, ensuring that every move is scrutinized by a cynical public. It is a brilliant, if not ruthless, bit of political maneuvering by Gus, who remains the most influential figure outside of the official boardrooms. The war is real, the casualties are mounting, and the soul of the game hangs in the balance. The question remains, can Peter V'landys survive a direct hit from Phil Gould? History suggests that once Gus identifies a target, he doesn't stop until there is a transformation. The revelation has empowered other critics who were previously too intimidated to speak up. Now, the floodgates are open, and that unseen war has become a very public battle for the future of the NRL. We are witnessing the breakdown of a partnership that many thought was the strongest in sports. Instead, we have a brutal divide that threatens to overshadow the actual games being played on the turf. It is a reminder that in the world of professional sports, the real action often happens in the dark rooms where power is traded. Gould has turned the lights on, and the image isn't pretty. The fallout will be messy, the arguments will be loud, and the resolution is nowhere in sight as the two biggest personalities in the sport prepare for the next round. This is a defining moment for the sport, a time when the fans must decide which vision of the future they believe in. Do they want the fast-paced, commercial juggernaut promised by the current administration?